We are here talking with Les Dutka, CEO of Echo International, about the translation business. And I want to pick up, Les, right where we left off, because I spend almost all of my professional life overseas, right? And I'm working here in America with Asian companies, and then I'm in Asia talking to them about American companies. And there are some folks that seem to be under the impression that, well, wait a minute, why do you have to do all this interpreting and translating? And they've even asked me, they said, Dave, your website, Jinfu Consulting, you've got a button. You've got a Chinese or an English. Yeah. Why can't people just use Google Translate? And I think that there's quite a misnomer about what machines can do and what requires the unique intelligence of humans. Right. How do you see the evolution in your business? I mean, clearly computers and technology have caused companies to now be $100 million firms where before it was mostly mom and pop. You have employees all over the world where before they were all local. But still, the most important part, I would argue, of your business is still a human one-to-one experience of extracting the knowledge and intelligence in a comprehensible way to another language. Right.
Well, the human translator or editor is really the only way still to get what is generally called a published-grade translation, meaning that it's 100% perfect, it's grammatically correct, intelligent, it's readable. It's the kind of content that you would want your writers in English to write. The so-called machine translation or automated translation software has come a long way in the last 40 or so years, and it's increasingly playing a role in the translation process, but it's not yet capable of producing what I just referred to as the published-grade translation. So it's usable in several ways. One is the so-called gist translation. If you just want to get into the ballpark, let's say you have
get a rough idea.
Yeah, you have a 300,000-400,000 word document, say a bunch of specs, and you need to prepare your proposal on them, but it's not cost-effective to translate all that. And let's say it's in Spanish, your engineers need to know what it says in English. Well, a rough gist translation gets them in the ballpark, and they'll be able to pick up enough of the technical terms to satisfy them. Then if they need accurate translation, that can then be translated by the humans.
And I often see that, for example, when I'm trying to source something for a client, let's say for something that's in Korea or something that's in China or, Taiwan, if the site isn't multilingual, I'll obviously use the Google Translate. Yes. But I got to tell you, it's rough. Well, and even on my own site, just for fun, I went to my own site, turned on the Mandarin version, and hit the Google Translate. Right. And boy, you can barely get the gist of it.
Well, but that's its purpose, and it's and I personally don't view machine translations at all as a threat. And in fact, it should be an ally, and it will be an ally. And the people who are working on this are very brilliant people. We have Carnegie Mellon University here in town, which has long had the Language Technology Institute. And we have a partnership with one of their professors who's a key fellow globally in the MT world. Mm-hmm. And so you have brilliant computational linguists working on the problem. You have millions of dollars spent on developing machine translation engines. It's just that speech is so complex, that to duplicate it without this software being able to think and make judgments, that's the missing link. Mm-hmm. So once the sufficient artificial intelligence is brought into the picture, then that'll probably dramatically upgrade the output, the quality of the output of machine translations. But that's still some ways out. So right now, so the way that it's being used is, as I said, to get in the ballpark for your own purposes, to know what is being said, and that's how it goes.
Yeah, and I will tell you from my experience in the transcription business, that's another industry where people think, well, the computers are just going to take over. You're going to talk, and it's going to spit out text. I have to tell you, we are a long, long way from having anything even close to reasonably good speech recognition. And again, right up here at Carnegie Mellon, we've got some utterly brilliant folks that were on our board of advisors, and they're working on the problem. But my guess is, and based on what they've shared with me, and I think it's too in translation, we're probably at least one or two significant shifts in computational power before you get into almost this artificial intelligence environment. But then even if that happens, Les, for your business, having the computational speed doesn't change the need for having the data about understanding the cultures in a profound way. Right. Because, again, working with your team on many, many projects over the past 20 years, it's often the nuances of understanding the culture, not just the language, that helps make this work most effective. And myself, as a real advocate for international business, I can't imagine one wanting to go into an international arena and having done all the work and expense and aggravation to get there at the very last stage, at the consumer purchasing stage, or to B2B for that matter, lose the client or lose the customer or lose your brand reputation because you didn't have extraordinarily well-tailored translation and interpretation.
Yes, exactly. But the reality is that the market wants speed, and so that's the dilemma and the contradiction between the human translator who views himself or herself almost more like an artist and labors over the content, thinks about it, and goes at a certain pace. I mean, there's only so fast one translator can translate. Even a professional translator. Whereas the customer wants their technical manuals in 30 languages, tomorrow.
And they may be 400-page manuals.
Exactly.
They took 3 years to develop,
right?
But they'd like you to turn them into comprehensible multilingual text in 30 days.
That's exactly the contradiction, and that's part of what's driving the funding or the increased funding in some sort of automated solution. And it'll probably be some sort of semi-automated solution just to increase the speed and lower the cost.